What happens when you're with someone who commits a crime but you didn't pull the trigger, throw the punch or wield the knife? In the UK, under the legal doctrine of joint enterprise, you could still be convicted, simply for being part of the group. Originally meant to hold partners in crime accountable, joint enterprise has become one of the most controversial legal doctrines in British law. Critics argue it's being used to convict people, often young, often from minority communities, with little proof of intent. Today, we hand the mic to someone who knows the reality, someone whose life was directly affected when joint enterprise was misapplied.
No, the guys unlawfully sitting on free throw.
How do we change it? No, joint enterprise shouldn't exist no more. Abolish the law, straight to the House of Lords. We're gonna break down that door
and get their attention quick. Man, I'm stepping up floor, pressure their court. But we shouldn't be accepting this.
Just straight to the source, expose their flaws.
Off their deceptions.
They try to take me away from my safety, but my safety ain't on their board. But my safety ain't on their board.
Look, it's time to wake up. This is real life. Just because you can't see it don't mean it's not happening.
Don't be blinded, stay open-minded, because if it happens to you, it'll leave damages.
And then you want action, and you say it's not fair, and you want things square like Madison.
Gotta stand for my rights to the people.
Shout your MP, bring them to action. You gotta be more than that.
Welcome to Spoken in Justice, where we put the criminal justice system in the dock. Today we dive into a controversial and often misunderstood legal doctrine in the UK, joint enterprise. As we discussed in this video, joint enterprise often allows individuals to be charged and convicted not for what they did, but for what someone else in the group did, if it's believed they foresaw the possibility of the crime. This has led to many young people, especially from black communities, being swept into the justice system for crimes they did not physically commit or intend to commit. Even being in the wrong place at the wrong time or knowing someone involved can be enough to face life-altering consequences. Today's guest knows this reality all too well. Pearl's Loren wisdom is first and foremost a devoted mother to at the time, 16-year-old son who was accused of murder under the joint enterprise doctrine, a crime he did not commit. Although her son was ultimately acquitted, the emotional toll, trauma, and injustice her family endured became the catalyst for a powerful movement. She is now the founder and director of Say No to Joint Enterprise UK KIC, a community interest company she created to support individuals and families navigating the harsh realities of the justice system, particularly those affected by joint enterprise. Her work is rooted in lived experience, and her mission is to raise awareness, challenge systemic injustice, and offer hope and solidarity to those still caught in the system. Now, in recognition of her tireless advocacy, Pearls has been nominated for the Community Champion Award at the Royal Global Awards 2025, taking place this October. A well-deserved honour for a woman turning personal pain into national purpose. Good afternoon, Pearls. Welcome to Spoken in Justice.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Lovely. I thought that it would be a good idea to start with a bit of background. Can you start by telling us a little bit about you and what your life was like before the accusation?
Right, so my life before this whole situation, the accusation, I run my own company, Pearls of Wisdom Design, where I make bags and accessories. I'm near enough everything, curtains, cushions, so I was basically, that was my day-to-day career. That's my job. That's what I do, interior design, anything to do with fashion. That's what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, just looking after my children, my grandchild, and doing workshops in the community. Yeah, quite happy, normal day-to-day thing.
Good, boring sometimes.
Yeah, which we
Yes,
call boring, but it was a nice boring anyway. Yeah.
without dramas,
Yeah,
indeed.
it's a nice thing.
That's nice. And how did it change after the accusation?
So the incident happened in the August of 2022 at Highbury Fields. The boys were going to a party. There was a birthday party that was going on. So they all went over. Not just the boys, not just the 7 boys. There was a few people that had gone over to the park, and then as you see at court and you see on the CCTV footage, or you hear on the CCTV footage anyway, there was a scream and then you saw everybody running. However, the person that they suspected of killing the young man was in the group that my son had travelled with to the party. The way in which it was all orchestrated in court, it was that you just saw those 7 boys running away after that scream was heard, not showing that there was 50 other people running in the same direction as well. However, the suspect, who they felt was the person that killed the boy, was in that group. And why my son was caught up in that is because when my son was arrested and we went to the police station, the picture that they said that, well, this is who you are, was a mistaken identity. It wasn't my son. Yeah, it wasn't him. There was a bladed article, not the article that was that committed the crime, but there was another bladed article, and on the tip of it had my son's thumbprint on that, but there was other DNA on the handle. But what was so horrible was that the prosecutor and the police did not mention that there was other DNA on it. They wanted it to sound like it was my son who had carried it to the scene. Thankfully, his legal team, which was a fantastic legal team, absolutely fantastic, they made sure all of the footage, because you have the unused footages, and I would advise any parent going through this, make sure used footages are used as well, if as much as possible, because that can really help your child in their case. And thankfully, it showed that the person who they thought was my son ran into the children's playground where that bladed article was found. They saw again that it was not my son who ran into that playground. My son ran away with the crowd. So they could actually see it was not my son. So the person that they mistook for my son was the person in the playground, not my son. So that was one of the things that actually saved my son, because if they had not shown that, my son would have been, like I said, that person who they mistakenly identified before, he would have been charged with that murder. So
It's terrible. And so he was accused under the joint enterprise doctrine. And for listeners who may not understand what that is, are you able to explain what joint enterprise is and how it did apply to your son's case?
Joint enterprise is a legal doctrine that allows a person to be convicted of a crime, even if they did not directly commit the criminal act, but they were involved in planning it or encouraging or assisting others in its commission. That if 2 or more people embark on a criminal venture, each person can be held responsible for the actions of the others involved. That's what the doctrine says. That's what joint enterprise is.
And so they all have to intend to want the end result.
That's right, exactly. So basically, they have to foresee that the act was going to happen, assist, encourage, and have intent to commit this crime. But in 2016, with the Jogi case, the High Court then admitted that they had taken a wrong turn with the joint enterprise doctrine and said that they've been using it wrong for 30 years, because you're charging a group of people for something one person spontaneously, the act of one person's spontaneous thought or actions. So they admitted that they had made a wrong turn. So if you've made a wrong turn, why are you still then charging and convicting people for the same thing? You've just made, you understand, you've admitted it's wrong. So now where my son's concerned, like I said, the one person who they suspected of committing the crime, because my son and the other boys was with that one person, they now want,
Presence.
yeah, that's right,
Basically, just presence.
presence, that's right, yeah. So thankfully, because this case is classed as a landmark case because there was no evidence against my son and the boys, you know, the six boys of
I was
them.
about to ask you,
Yeah,
was
there
there
was
any
no
direct
evidence.
evidence?
No, there was no direct evidence of them assisting, encouraging, you know, in doing any of that. And the thing about, they had two witnesses, which they called star witnesses. They were for the prosecution, but in the end, they actually became like witnesses for the defendants, because one of the boys who was with them and should have been in the dock, he turned around and said, no, there was no planning. There was no talking of anybody going to be hurt or harmed in any way. All they were talking about were girls, you know, going to the party to go and meet girls. And that's all the conversation was about, meeting girls. There was no planning, there was no intent, there was no harm. And it is so horrible the way in which the prosecution and the police make out these boys were, you know, by what they were wearing, their clothing that they were wearing.
That is crazy. It's just by association.
That's
It's
right, yeah.
simply by association.
By association, yes.
And you have mentioned that the defense team was fantastic. Can you
Yes.
give us a bit of background of your experience of the police, the legal representatives, and the court? Just in general, how were you treated, and what was your experience?
My experience, you know, I heard some horror stories of how police came and kicked people's doors down, raided their homes, and, you know, did some really horrific things, really traumatized the families of the Codees. But they came to my home 5:30 in the morning, and they came and they were very respectful, which was surprising, to be honest. I was surprised because when you hear how the police do behave, you know, especially when it comes to people of color, you know, and the treatment of them. You know, I even said to them, thank you so much for coming to my home and being respectful. And so they were respectful. They came, they did their duty in a respectful manner, even though the one lady officer had to kind of tell her off and say, listen, you know, you will not rough my son up and treat him in any way, shape or form like he's guilty, because it says innocent until proven guilty, and that's the way you will treat him. He's innocent. And I said to her, I know you're afraid because he's a tall enough black boy, and you lot come with this impression that they're aggressive and dangerous. And I know because he's been charged with or suspected of being, you know, or not even, you're arresting him for murder, but you can't treat him as if he is a murderer, because, like I said, innocent until proven guilty. And I had to let them know, the handcuffs that you're putting on my son, make sure I don't see not one scratch mark on my son. I said, because if I see anything, it's going to be a problem. You figure what I'm saying? But like I said, it was only one police officer. And then when we got to the station again, they were calm, they were fine again, which surprised me, because I thought it was going to be, because I know sometimes police can be very sarcastic, you know, very, very cheeky, but they were fine. They were actually okay.
And let's remind our audience, your son was 16,
That's
so
right,
he was underage, which is very important as well.
That's right, exactly. You know,
they need to be wary of
that's
the
right,
age.
yeah. And I was quite happy that they were wary of that and they stuck to protocol, because I'm a person, I write, and I would have been writing to newspapers, I would have been writing to everybody if they had tried to treat my son in any way, shape or form differently than what he deserved, you know, with the respect, you know. So so the legal team now, my legal team, I've known them for a good few years.
Were you eligible for legal aid?
Yes, we were. Yeah, we were eligible for legal aid. Yeah, my son.
Your son, obviously.
Yeah, my son was eligible for legal aid, and our legal team were brilliant. You know, they really do care for their clients' well-being. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
so Atcham and Partners. That's
good for our viewers if they ever need some suggestions.
So there's Atcham and Partners, and our barrister, who is Kiri Ariopoulos, and I think their firm is 15NB, something like that. Well, I'll give you the information and you can put it. I could pay it. who's from Garden Court Chambers, and he was our KC. And they went above and beyond for my son. I saw the work that they put in for my son. I even feel emotional about it now, how they really, really went out of their way, because they saw that he was a good boy. And I'm not saying that because he's my son. I'm not saying that. Other people know my son's character from friends, school, wherever he's been. My son, everybody has said the same thing about my son. When they ask for character references, you know, when you go to court, they ask for character references. And across the board, whether it be from football, sports, running, whatever it was, everybody said the same thing. You'd think that they all got together and colluded, but everybody said the same thing. Respectful, very respectful, helpful, and all the rest of it. So they went above and beyond for him.
Which makes it even worse, the experience you had to go through. How long did your son... So your son was sent on remand?
Yeah, so in October 2023, he was charged and then put on remand for 15 months up until the time he got acquitted.
That is absolutely terrible. What was the experience like?
Wow.
Not having him at home.
Yeah, that when they said, because we still thought that they were going to say bail until further investigation, but when they charged him, I didn't say, I just kept my calm for my son's sake. And of course shock sets in, because it's like, murder is a big thing. This is not a joke. Someone's life has been taken. Someone is dead. Someone's died, not coming back alive. So I just kept calm, and I just said, son, whatever we need to do now, we will do. But because I'm a believer, and that particular moment, I heard within my spirit, don't worry, everything is going to be okay. I took that and I ran with that. I really did. And that is what kept me throughout the whole 15 months. Just saying, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And that's what I kept saying to my son. It's going to be okay. But even though still, in saying that, when I woke up the following morning, it just came all crashing back down on me again. And it's like, murder. My son could be facing life for something that he has not done. And imagine you not doing something and you're going to go to prison for life for something that you have not done.
Couldn't think of anything worse. It's a nightmare.
I've said this before many a times. I've lost a child. Yeah, I've lost a child. My child has died. Yeah, I've lost a child. But this was worse. This felt worse than losing my child, because my child is dead. He's buried. I know where his grave is. But having a child who's going to be given a life sentence is like he's alive but dead, isn't it? Kind of like thing. I don't know if anyone will understand what I mean by that. That's someone locked away behind prison bars. I can't get to him. I can't do anything for him. He's alive, but I cannot. If you get what I'm saying, the thought of it.
Yes, it's like buried alive. Basically.
Buried alive, exactly. You said the right thing there, Anna, buried alive. And that was the worst feeling in the world.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, it was the worst feeling in the world.
And what was your experience of visiting him in prison? First of all, was it a prison near you? Did you have to travel far?
It was about 2 hours away. Yeah, so visiting him again, going to visit the first time, and I had to go, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving my child behind. You know, I'm leaving my child. I'm leaving part of my heart. I'm leaving part of my heart behind. And yeah, that was hard. Yeah,
and you have to make appointments in advance to see them. There is only a certain time when you can go and see.
But what was lovely was that I could see him every day if I wanted to. I could see him every day, but that would have been very, very costly, you know, very, very costly because of the distance and everything like that. And I did visit him regularly. At first, it was once a week, and then he said, "Mom, you don't have to come so often," and you know, and then it would be maybe once a fortnight or something like that, or whatever. When he had settled in enough, because he was in a centre where he had to go to school, so he had to continue with his education. Yeah, so he got some qualifications while he was there. So
Great.
that routine helped because
Yes.
they're not just locked in a cell for how many hours per day. They had to go to school, basically, had to continue education. Yeah,
So that's a positive point. It shouldn't have been there in the first place, but at
that's
least it didn't miss out on education,
yeah.
which is great. And tell us how it was going through the trial,
Through the
and
trial, yeah.
when do you get the final verdict?
Verdict, yeah. So going through the trial now, starting the trial, 1st of October, October 2024. Again, nerve-wracking, isn't it? Because you just don't know what to expect, isn't it? I've heard so many horror stories about trials and all the rest of it, but it just it didn't go the way of that horror story. If you get what I'm saying, like the process, the ins and outs of it. We had a brilliant jury because again, I've heard horror stories about juries. They were very engaging. They were so interested in every last intricate detail. They asked questions, continually asked questions. If they didn't understand something, they asked for it to be explained. Yeah, they were so on point, really, really on point. We had a mix of, middle-aged and young. Yeah, we didn't really have older people, if you get what I'm saying, quite middle-aged and young. We
In
had a
terms of racial
Yeah,
representation?
so racial representation, we had two Afro-Caribbean people, we had an Asian, and then white, Caucasian. Yeah. Yeah, so it was mainly Caucasian, but again, like I said, we still had some Afro-Caribbean and Asian people
Great.
within the
Because
mix.
we are great supporters of jury. You have heard that there is some effort to cut down jury trials, and we are so opposed to it. So it's
Yeah.
great to hear what you're telling us. It's a good testimony of that. That's
Yeah.
great. And given the result, then we know
Yeah.
that it is important that there are safeguards
That's right.
against power abuse. And
That's right.
so what happened during the trial? Were you explained the phases of the trial? Could you understand? And most importantly, your son, could they understand what they were going through and what was the next phase? What was
What was
expected of them?
Yeah, what was really lovely, and again, they people doubt that. I've had people speculate whether what I'm saying really happened, but it did. We had a fantastic judge, Angela Rafferty. She was so good with the boys because she made sure all the barristers, Casey's, everybody spoke in a language that the boys could understand, not just legalese, but spoke in a
Good.
language the boys could understand. It was broken down. She gave them time if they needed a break. She was so observant of them, though, which was again fantastic. She could see if they were tired, agitated or anything like that. And she said, "All right, then we're going to take a break, give the boys a break." So yeah, she was. She was. I will give her respect where respect is due. Certain little things I heard that she should have not let allowed or not, but to me, she was good. She was fantastic. And again, she also spoke to the jury, explained everything to the jury, what was expected of them, no biases, unconscious bias. She really broke it down to them, what was expected of them, what was not allowed. And so they were properly informed and directed. That's right, they were. And what I also loved was all the Cody's legal teams. They worked together, even though there was times, of course, you would get to some cutthroat points, parts if they had to defend their client, which of course they've got to defend their client. But everybody seemed to work in enough unison, harmony, bring about the desired verdict, which was the not guilty verdicts. So they all
How
had.
did you feel?
How did I feel? I was so, again, like I said, I was forever saying my son's going to be acquitted throughout the whole thing, and seeing how they worked, like I said, the legal team, and again how they directed the jury, because this is very, very important. This is so important. The direction of the jury, and our legal team as well as the other legal team gave clear directions of the jury. Now they were saying that you cannot, yes, someone has died. We cannot take that away. We show sympathy for the family, but you cannot allow your sympathy to make your decisions on whether they're guilty or not guilty. You can't say they're guilty because of your feelings and you want to feel sympathy for the family. That would be wrong. It's based on the evidence, clear evidence. Are you sure? They explained what sure meant, because from what I'm hearing, I've heard juries don't understand what sure means. So they broke down what sure means. If you are not sure, that means that they're not guilty. You're not sure. Don't try and be sure or a little bit sure. You have to be sure. I was so grateful that, again, like I said, the professionalism of the legal teams, so fantastic. I always sing their praises anyway. I really do. And that is what gave the jury the clear directions that allowed them to make the decision that they made, come up with the verdict that they came up with. On the day, it's so funny because you get a foreboding. You don't know when the verdict is going to come, because they took 33 hours in deliberation. So we didn't know what day the verdict was going to happen. Of course, we don't know. There were so many things happening. Someone had to go away, something happened. And so it was just drawn out. It was drawn out over 4 months. And then it was a particular day. It's like you just felt this foreboding, like, no, it's going to happen today. It's going to happen today. And it was that particular day. And when the judge asks the jury, have you come back with a verdict? Oh my, ooh, that moment there, we was all holding hands up in the public gallery. All the family was holding hands, praying, crying. We was just, and then when we got the verdicts, one after the other, it was just like we had to keep quiet, of course, but we cheered, but we had to keep quiet. I actually ran out the room. I ran out the room when I heard not guilty, because he was charged with two things: the murder and the bladed article, which they tried to say was his. And I waited to hear for that part. When he did, and I ran out the room, and I went and I got my phone and I called everybody, and I was like telling everybody about it. And yeah,
About a weight being
it was.
lifted off
It
you.
was. It really was. And I wanted to get on my soapbox, and I just wanted to tell the whole world about joint enterprise and how easy it is to get caught up in it. You don't even have to even be in the vicinity. You could have gotten a call, a phone call, or a text, and that can cause you to become associated with that.
Absolutely. We'll talk about this in a moment, but just before that, can you tell us were the verdicts unanimous or a majority?
It was is it 11 to 1, because what it was at first,
So it was a majority.
Majority, is that majority? So
Yes.
one
12
wasn't
people, it's unanimous.
Yeah, so one wasn't. So that's right. So one person didn't agree, I think it was, or something like that. So it was like 11
Majority.
so majority. I think it was majority.
Even though your son was acquitted, I'm sure that there are some lasting effects on you and your son from that experience. 15 months in prison is something. He must have seen things that probably shouldn't have seen. How the experience affected your son first? Are you able to tell? Or?
I would let him, when he's ready to tell his story, he's the best person to tell his story.
Of course.
The one thing he has said is that he turned it around to become a learning experience. He turned the situation. That's what helped him to get through. He turned it into a learning experience. So he studied, he read things, really read things, studied, just kept his mind occupied on positive things. And I also quoted to him what a rapper in America had said, an article that I came across. And he accidentally killed somebody and got 14 years, the rapper did. And he said he'd listened to as many people that had been in prison. Oh, I should be doing this right now. I should be doing this right now. And he said, instead of me sitting down thinking about what I should be doing, I'm going to turn the prison into a university. and learn everything I can possibly learn. And that's what he did. He took his mind out of the four walls by reading and by studying. And I said to my son, that is what I want you to do. Study. Don't worry about what you should be doing or what's going on out here. While you're there, learn as much as you can possibly learn. I said, get a notice board, write down everything you want to do when you come out, all your dreams, your goals. I said, write it all down and keep it there so that it's in the forefront of your mind. You see every day when you wake up, last thing when you go to sleep at night, and you keep your head out of the four walls, but study. And that is something that did help him to go
That's
through.
great that you kept sanity on him as well,
Yeah.
because that's important to have also the
So,
family
yeah.
support. But yeah, putting a positive spin on
Yes,
a
that's right. On it, yeah.
completely nightmare experience.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. What was the ordeal for you? How has this changed you? How do you think has affected you?
It has traumatized me. It really has. It's traumatized me in the sense of when I'm sitting at home and I hear car doors slam or draw, you got them sliding door things. I always think it's the police. And I jump up and I'm looking out the window and seeing if it's the police coming to my house or whatever the case may be. Sometimes it has been the police, not for myself, but sometimes it has been. So I'm learning to not let every car door that I hear.
Oh,
It's hard sometimes, though. It is hard.
I can imagine. Have you or your son received any help, support after this experience at all?
We had a good support network from beginning to end. We've always had a good support network. So we have people that we can speak to,
I'm
that's
talking
stand
about
by.
state support.
Oh, state support. Yeah, we've been offered counselling. Yeah, we've been offered counselling. If we want to go, we go. It's been offered. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that they were offering counseling for this type of situation. That's great.
I think once again, and I will say this for the families as well, is what you ask for as well. Is what you have to know what you need, and you have to know who to go to ask for what you need. Because if you don't do that, you won't get what it is, the help that you need. So if say for instance, if your child, say for instance, my son is 16. So once a child is arrested, they come under the social services basically, and they're called looked after child. So then the government, the state then becomes basically like a parent. They become responsible for the child. So they have to provide for the needs of that child. And if you work with your social worker, build up a rapport with them, they will support you. I know some people have had bad experiences, but for myself, I choose to work alongside them for the benefit of my child. I'm not fighting against. If I can even support them, help them make their job easier, that's what I'm going to do. Again, it depends on the person, I suppose, and it depends on how you approach. Yeah.
I see. And let's now talk a little bit how this changed your life professionally, because now you have taken some responsibilities on you of awareness and campaigning. Can you take us through that journey?
Yes. So off of the back of what happened with my son, I registered. I know it was like an epiphany I had. It was in the November. So he's been arrested and put on remand in October. And then come the November, I just woke up one morning with Say No to Joint Enterprise. Like, oh, okay. And then I registered it. And along the way was supporting the mothers there as well, the Cody's parents. I was supporting them. So from supporting them now, I then registered the company into a CIC, where I'm still supporting. I've got about 7 mothers that I support. When I say support, I mean actually like hands-on support. So legal advice, even their mothers whose sons are serving time for joint enterprise. Campaigns, gone to the House of Commons. I've been on Channel 4 News. We had a launch, Peel had a launch in July, and I was on the panel speaking about joint enterprise again, and
We were there.
Oh, you did, yeah. That's how we met. That's right. That's how we met.
Indeed,
So I've done a few things,
Indeed. And shall we say something amazing that just happened?
Oh, yeah,
Where
yeah,
you've been
yeah.
nominated for the Royal Award 2025.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And that was so surprising when I saw that come up on my TikTok. I was like, oh my gosh, I was so surprised. I didn't even know what to do with myself. I was like, is this even for real? You know, I thought it was a joke.
Well deserved, I should say.
Thank
Well
you.
deserved. So you
Yeah,
shouldn't be surprised. We look
yeah.
forward to that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that's what I am doing now. So I'm very, very, very passionate. When I say passionate, I mean very passionate. Every waking moment, I'm thinking, what can I do? How can I help? What can we do to change this doctrine?
Can you tell our viewers how they can contact Say No to Joint Enterprise and where they can find you?
Yes, so I'm on all social media platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. My social media handle is Say No to Joint Enterprise. My website as well, which is sayno2jointenterprise.co.uk. Yeah.
Fabulous. That's keeping you busy at the moment,
Yes.
7 families. And what would you say to another parent whose child has been accused under the joint enterprise? You've got the platform here.
First and foremost, from arrest, do not accept the duty solicitor to be the final team that will defend your child. Please do your research, do your due diligence. Research, go on to the Law Society, Google Law Society, and you can put in your postcode and it will show you all of the legal firms in your area. You can maybe even go out of that if you want to, and check the bands of the legal firms. So bands 3 and upwards, and then check and see if they've murder cases. Yeah, not just joint enterprise cases, but murder cases. How often are they in court? Just check them all out. Just check everything about them out. And once you've chosen your legal team, they will have a barrister. You can always have a say about your barrister as well. Maybe you might know of a barrister that you want to use or prefer, and also your Casey, because I chose my son's Casey. So you can also do your research on the Caseys as well, because the Casey and the barrister work very closely together. They all work closely together, and yeah, that's really, really important, because they're the ones that they can come up with the verdict of guilty or not guilty, because the work they do.
So if you could speak directly to policymakers, what would you want them to hear?
So we were doing some research about how they go about laws in like Sweden, that even America got 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree murder, and all the different categories of things. And what we would like is not joint charging, or joint conviction, but look at the different roles they may have played, if they played any at all. Was it a fray? Was it disorder? Was it, those kind, and look into those things, not just be lazy and say, well, we're going to all group you together because you were in associating or you in the same place, you whatever. Not just don't be lazy, because we find it very lazy. It's too easy to just say, well, it's joint enterprise, and then just come up with this, charge them with murder. No, do some more, do work, do your due diligence, let the police work. Let them actually come up with a proper actual evidence that they actually assisted, aided, abetted, come up with some actual facts or evidence that they did. One thing that we find is that when it comes to appeals, they make it so hard for the person to appeal. You have to come up with new evidence in order to be able to appeal. But one of the things that makes it hard when it comes to parole, say for instance, you're coming up for, it's your parole date and you're coming up for parole, they make it hard because they want them to show remorse. But if you have not committed the crime, how can you show remorse for something you have not done? Where, how, what way? We're still trying to figure out. I've been asking this question for a while. You have not done it. You did not know it was going to happen. You took no part in it. There's the mens rea, isn't it? And the actus reus, isn't it? None of that is in place. So how can I then say I'm sorry I did.
This is something we have discussed in great length. I will link the videos. We are supporting the Law Commission's reform for appeals not to have the new evidence element, so
Yeah,
that appeals can go ahead without
that's
any
right.
evidence. We're
Yes.
also supporting the Law Commission proposal to have longer than 28 days to appeal after the conviction.
Lovely. That's
And
brilliant.
in terms of the maintenance of innocence, we have highlighted that often maintaining your innocence works against you, because when it comes a time of parole,
Well, yes.
then you are not released because you have not admitted the offense.
Admitted,
But
yeah.
clearly, if somebody is maintaining their innocence because they haven't committed the crime,
That's right.
then it's clearly very difficult to go through that route. So
Yeah.
yes, there are issues that we are tackling, and it's great
Yeah.
that you've given us the opportunity to look into that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Because it's families are hurting. I'm around them. I hear them. They cry. I hear their pain. Some of them feel that they're not even going to be alive when their sons come out. Some of them feel that they just want to die now because they can't stand the pain. We need some grace. We need
Yes.
some grace.
Absolutely. And also the changes that you were talking about in terms of differentiate. So first,
Yes.
make sure that person was indeed party of the crime.
That's
That
right.
there
Yeah.
was a crime. But even when we understand that there has been a collaboration, the frame of mind that you need for somebody to kill somebody,
That's right.
it's
Yes.
completely different from one who say, I'm willing to give you the knife, as
Yeah.
well as different from the one who say, I'm willing to be there and encourage you. They
Yeah.
are different frame of mind.
There are.
And so it's important that we differentiate
Yeah,
their
and what we need to
roles.
also take into consideration is that autism, ADHD, neurodiversities, we have to take that into consideration as well. I know they said 25%, but I think that the numbers was higher. Who have been charged for or convicted of joint enterprise have ADHD, they have autism, neurodiversity, and they've not been diagnosed with it. So this is something that also needs to be looked into as also. We
The
definitely need to.
increase of neurodiversity in our kids in this new generation, it's something that needs to be looked at more, how it affects when it comes to criminal proceedings, indeed. Something that I don't think we have yet mastered, especially when it comes to underage teenagers. I agree on that as well. So what's next for you in your campaign and your advocacy work?
So next is going into schools, colleges, youth hubs, family hubs, just basically spreading the word everywhere, raising awareness, educating, supporting in as many spaces that I can. Going back into the commons, I would like to be there on a regular basis, speaking about joint enterprise and the impact that it has on the families. And again, just speaking about basically what we've been talking about here, reform.
It's amazing that most families and kids will not understand that until they are already in the midst of a criminal investigation.
That's
And
right.
that's really what we should focus on. As a mum of an 11-year-old, I live with that fear. And so I try to warn him, but there are many children who have no idea. So perhaps bringing it into schools, that's very important. So
It's
that's
very
great.
important. Yeah, we've got to do the preventative work. We have to do that, take preventative measures as much as we possibly can. Empower the youth, because again, a lot of them take friendships for granted, not realizing anything can happen. Anything can
Of
happen at
course.
any given moment. What do you do? How do you handle that situation?
In a way, yes, education is great, but we need to understand that we don't make our children wary that they can't possibly be friends with someone just
Someone.
because they might
Yeah,
get
that's right.
into trouble one day.
That's right. Yeah.
That's not
It's,
good
it's a
either.
lot of pressure for them because again,
Yes,
you also, you hear, show me your company, and all of those kind of sayings, and you be careful of your company,
of
definitely be
course.
careful of the company, but again, we want them to be able to be free to be you.
So is there a final message that you would like to leave for our listeners, especially those who may have never heard of joint enterprise before?
Please do your due diligence and study about joint enterprise. I've said this on many platforms before. Do not think that you or your loved one is exempt from joint enterprise, because you're not. There are some horror stories. Yeah, some serious horror stories of people who were not involved in any way, shape, or form. Normal person in the public, getting along about their business, that have been caught up in joint enterprise. So please do not think that you're exempt. Please don't turn around and say, well, I don't commit a crime. I'm not a criminal, or my loved one will never do something like that. And, please do not take that air. Just study it, understand how easy it can get caught. You can get caught up in it, or your loved one can get caught up in it, and just spread the word. Just keep spreading the word as much as you possibly can. Yeah.
Thank you, Pels. That's a good way to conclude. Don't think it can't happen to you. That's our final message to our listeners. Thank you so much for empowering us with the knowledge.
Thank you.
We hope to
Thank you.
see you
Thank
soon,
you.
Pels, and I'm hoping to see you definitely in October for
Yes.
your award or for
Thank
your
you.
nomination.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that was a powerful and deeply moving conversation with Pearl's wisdom. Her story shines a light on a justice system that too often fails the very people it's meant to protect, and on the strength of mothers who refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice. If Pearl's story resonated with you, please consider sharing this episode with others. Let's keep this conversation going, because awareness is the first step toward change. As always, join us again as we sit and rise in this unique trial.